Hey guys, Robert here, and I have with me a special guest, third time on the show, Mr. Mark Waid.
Please hold your applause, Robert. Oh, by the
Yeah.
by the way, StreamYard and its camera setup, it's killing me. I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna zoom out. I encourage people just not roll with it and don't get seasick. Okay.
It's all right. It's all right. I've dealt with that before, but
Yeah.
yeah, Mark's been a couple of years since I last had you on. You've done
Yeah.
a lot since then. A
Been a pretty
lot.
busy boy. Yep.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Starting with your run on action. I
Yeah.
love this. I
Thank you.
love the story arc. Just this whole one. You answer the big question about the origin of the Phantom Zone, but you also took stuff from pre-crisis with that one character. I just like that
Mono.
name. Yeah, yeah. Well, Monel and but also the other guy, the guy who was trying to manipulate everything. He goes all the way back to
That's
early days.
true. Yeah, Ether goes back,
Yep.
Jaxer goes back. A lot of them go back.
Yeah.
Again, it's not supposed to be a nostalgia act. It's not like a retro book, but it is a remembrance that there are certain things from earlier eras that don't need to be forgotten because they
Exactly.
work. Yeah.
Exactly. And you utilize the Phantom King brilliantly, I might add. I love him. One of Grant's
Yeah.
great creations. But well, how was it working on it? Like, was it meant to be a weekly, or did it end up just becoming that? Or
It was meant to be a weekly. I mean, again, we started, because Clayton has to draw the damn thing. We
right?
started a year in,
I
a
caught
year
that
a
with the signature. I caught that with the year on the covers. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
2023, really?
Yeah, so we started a year ahead of time with the idea that we would just bank everything, and as we got
Mm-hmm.
closer to it, we would release it as a weekly, and it
Yeah.
turned out pretty well. I think I like the idea that boom, 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 rapid, rapid, rapid fire. Every week there's another installment of the story in stores, and the reception was really good.
Yep, I loved it. Loved, him actually going on Krypton. Loved how it tied into the 1075
Yep.
issue. Yeah, I mean, and this was and, when I had you on last, you said this was a story you really wanted to tell. So,
Yeah.
what about it did you really want to tell? I'm curious.
I really wanted to tell the fact that what has happened, what we've done with the Phantom Zone at DC over the last like 20 years or so, is
Hmm.
sort of shifted away from the original concept of like it's phantoms to
Yeah,
a place where everything is real and solid, and it's a hell on earth. I mean, it is absolutely hellish in there, and so it is harder for me to wrap my head around the morality of Superman and Supergirl sending people to the Phantom Zone, knowing how ungodly awful it is in there.
oh
um,
yeah.
so this story was a chance to sort of reset that, so that
Mhm.
it's still not a pleasant place to be, but it is not, there's two things. I mean, first off, it is not complete hell on earth at any given moment in time. It's just a
Right.
prison. And
Mhm.
for the first time, there's a mechanism for parole built into it, which is very Superman. The idea that
Oh yeah.
redemption is possible in the Phantom Zone. Not many people will take it, but the
Right.
possibility exists.
Exactly. And I really loved. I also love the politics you revealed on Krypton, how it was not meant to be a prison. Jor-El created for one thing and then it just ended up being a prison. Because people go back and forth. Did he make it to be a prison? Did he
Right.
not? I like how
And
you came up with
in the Silver Age, it was always he made it to be a prison. But like I said, as we get into further away from the 1960s and more towards the reality of what prisons look like today,
hmm
and and how we have come to learn as a society that maybe just putting people in a horrible hellhole is not a good idea to do, for just
exactly.
it's not a one size fits all solution. So
Mhm.
we retcon that Jor-El created it, as has always been the case, but he's not the one who said, hey, let's just throw criminals in there willy-nilly.
Exactly, which makes sense. That fits it. That if you ask me, that also fits his character a bit more. So it feels
I think
like,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jor-El is again, he's shifted as well. Sometimes he's cold science, other times he wears his
Right.
heart on his sleeve. But it feels for it to be Superman's dad, it makes more. I always prefer where they're more alike than they are different. I always
Me
prefer
too.
that.
Me too.
But yeah, then of course you're still doing World's Finest,
Yeah, still
and
doing that.
yep, I've been loving it. I just and I gotta get to the Just League Unlimited crossover. Brilliant idea. A friend of mine, Jared, has oh wait. Oh, a friend of mine said, tell Mark Wade that World's Finest kicks ass.
That is
Yep.
nice to hear. The
Yep.
crossover was just a happy accident. The crossover was that we
Yeah.
knew we were going to have fill-in artists on World's Finest and on
Oh.
Justice League at the same time, as luck would have it, at the same time.
Hmm.
So they're both Travis Moore and Clayton Henry. They're both terrific artists, but
Hmm.
so that just to safeguard against fans looking at it going, oh, these are fill-in issues, we don't have to pay attention.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
we wanted. I said, well, let's just make an event out of it. Let's make a big deal out of it and give the people a reason to come, thundering into the stores for these books. And it worked out really well. It
Yeah.
seems to be a very popular crossover event.
Yep, and I love the idea though of going because the Legion of Doom completely like not even applicable. Williamson's doing his own thing, King's doing his own thing with Cheetah, all that. So it's like, let's go to the past. I mean, where
Yeah,
did that idea just come off naturally, or like where
it
did
just
that
came
come?
out naturally. It was well, the question became, okay, we want to put the band back together, but how do we do that? Because as you said, currently a lot of these supervillains are busy, occupied doing other stuff. Sinestro's off
Hmm.
world and Luther's reformed and so forth and so on. So that once we realized World's Finest could be a component of it, which is, and World's Finest being set in the past as it is,
Hmm.
then it just all came together from there. Well, of course, we can use the Legion of Doom from the World's Finest era and bring
Hmm.
them into the Justice League Unlimited era.
I love and Justice League Unlimited. That's been great. How you're
Thanks.
taking what the old cartoon did, which is basically everyone's a member, but you
Hmm.
pick who you need for each adventure, and
Mission
love that.
specific. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, whose idea was it to make Carol an actual hero? Was that your idea? Was that Adams? Whose idea was it to make Carol Star Sapphire a full hero on Earth?
That was Jeremy Adams, and I think it was a really good idea.
Ah, very much so. And you've been doing great with it as well. I feel that,
Thanks.
yep, because it's been again spectacular just seeing how you've been handling it all, and how's it been like since you're like the flagship title of the DC universe. um like for example, your Wonder Woman compared to was King, do you have to work that through, or is it a case where you're set before or after everything going on with King and you don't have to worry about it? How does that work? Like,
We do talk. I mean, the nice thing about all the DC writers is we do talk with each other. So
mhm,
we're making every effort to be consistent with the characters. It doesn't necessarily mean that, we're trying to be mindful of the fact that, say, for instance, Aquaman in his own book is off world right now, so maybe he shouldn't be in these, X number of Justice League Unlimited issues.
mhm,
But on the whole, when it comes to Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, it's just a matter of keeping the communication lines open between the
gotcha,
writers of those books so that it's not necessarily in lockstep continuity, but it is consistent.
gotcha.
Their portrayals are consistent across the books.
Gotcha. I understand. Because, yeah, because that's always a big kerfuffle when dealing with it. I'm sure that could sometimes be headache sometimes, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't exactly. I mean, when I first took over World's Finest, Superman was off world and Batman didn't have his fortune. And so that was, one of the reasons why we said, okay, let's set this a little bit in the past because we don't have to worry about the continuity of the present day books so much.
Exactly. Exactly. But, and yeah, you have that. Oh, this. I recorded
No,
it with a
thanks.
friend of mine. We
Mhm.
recorded, it's going to be on my Pro Teachers Noob. Love this. This is not a definite sequel to Birthright, but a spiritual follow up, correct?
It's a very much a spiritual sequel. It's not in every last detail a sequel to Birthright, but it in my mind it really sort of is. And I honestly think this may be the best thing I've ever written.
Oh,
I'm
I love
very
it.
happy with it. Thank you.
I love it. Especially, I love how Lex is like, I know you. I know how you are. You're not going to
Yep.
let me die. It's basically a case where it's one thing to make it the choice of,
Mhm.
I can't be everywhere.
Right.
But if someone comes to you saying, save me, you're not going to, he's not going to say no. And Lex
Right.
knows that.
Right. The high concept of the book is that Lex Luthor is dying and he comes to Superman for help because he can't find a cure. And there's no, and he's the smartest man in the world as far as he's concerned. He can't find a cure.
Mhm.
So he comes to Superman asking for help, knowing that even though Superman will be gritting his teeth throughout,
Yep,
Superman cannot willfully let anyone die, even if it's Lex Luthor, which pits him against a big portion of the DC universe. There's
exactly.
Wonder Woman and some of these other characters are like, "What are you doing?
Exactly.
You don't
Wonder Woman just decks him and
right.
everything.
You're not killing him. You're just there's nothing you can't just let him die. And Superman's like, that's not how I roll.
Just like Batman was, if given the choice of letting Joker die, he won't do
Yeah.
it.
No, it's just with Superman in particular.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of reasons Superman doesn't kill, but one of them is that the moment the world sees him as a weapon
Yep.
as opposed to a helper, then they will just start being scared of him. That his whole reputation is ruined the moment that the world sees him as a weapon. And
Exactly.
so that is one of the reasons why Superman doesn't take human life.
Exactly. I gotta ask, when it comes to the artwork with Brian Hitch,
Yeah.
first of all, some of his best
Oh, this is
work.
amazing. And Kevin
Yep.
Nolan inks. Yep.
Yep.
Terrific.
Especially, was I noticed when it came to Lex as he got older, he started looking more like Patrick Stewart. Was that a little intentional that you know of?
I don't know, actually. I didn't think to ask him. There's a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of Patrick Stewart, maybe.
Yeah, in some pages, like oh, where was it? There was one right here.
There's a
That
little
was
bit of
very
that. Yeah, it's true.
yeah, because I do like at the beginning you see Lex healthy, and then by the end he is wrinkled, he is old, he is
Brian did a
yeah,
really good job to show the gradual emaciation of Lex as the disease kicks in. Yes.
exactly. And I also say really loved well, yeah, Brainiac being the final villain makes so much sense because he's both of them. He's both Superman and Lex
Yep.
combined.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The ultimate intellect and everything. And yeah, and the twist. Him giving his powers to Lex. Now,
Spoiler alert. By the way, spoiler alert for
you're
people
right.
who
Spoiler alert. You're right. You're right. I
spoiler alert.
did not even
The
think about that.
let's just say the twist that you know
I'm not
that
going to go any
is
further. I'm not going to go any further. I'm
there you
going to
go,
skip the
that
ending.
sets it apart from other similar stories. I'm
Yeah.
proud of the twist. I'm proud of the way it worked out, and it is not a book that is in modern continuity. It is not a book that is in current continuity, but
Yep.
so you'll see what that
For good
leads to.
reason. Yeah. For good
Yeah.
reason. I won't show the rest. I won't show
Okay.
the rest. But also, oh, this the Summer of Superman special. This is a great year to be a Superman fan. I mean, you looking forward to the movie?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the whole world is paying attention to Superman right now, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, how was it? Like, yeah, you're working with now Dan Slott as well as Williamson. I mean, that must be great. Just three writers now. Like, when was the last time we've had three Superman books? I realized, like, a
Yeah,
long
it's the first time in a
time.
long time since we've had three Superman
Since
books, and it's
Infinite
you know,
Crisis, I think.
and we are certainly, we're still we're constantly in contact with each other. And in this particular book,
Hmm.
the Summer of Superman, it was basically just set up as it's a sampler of what is to come. I'm doing Superboy in Action Comics. Dan is doing Superman and Superman Unlimited, and then Josh's stuff with Superman is uh, not necessarily set in the future, but it has
Right.
more to do with Superman's future. Whereas
Yeah,
Dan's stuff has to do with Superman's present, and my stuff has to do with Superman's past.
right. Exactly. The slightly immediate future
Yeah.
for Josh. Yeah.
Hmm.
But but yeah, I mean, again, just Superman. Has not been this good since I guess since Infinite Crisis, if you ask me. I think that was the last time they really put emphasis on Superman was way back then. And
Yeah.
it's just been so great. I mean, he's my favorite hero, period.
Yeah.
He's my
Yeah.
favorite because you want to know what the first book I ever read? A
Yeah.
couple of issues of The Funeral.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Look,
That's,
Superman's the best. No question about that.
yep, that's what got me into it. Oh, speaking of which,
Yeah.
Flash 800, you did a little story for this. Um,
Yeah.
how did it feel with Adams creating a new kid for named Waid?
I know that was really nice of Jeremy Adams to give Flash a son named Wade. That was a really nice tip of the hat. I very much appreciate that. I pray that he doesn't get killed off anytime soon.
Nope. Actually, I do know that in the current stuff, Spurrier, I believe,
Yeah.
is having him be a big focal point, and they're dealing with a future version of him.
Right, which is pretty
Uh,
cool. So it doesn't
mhm.
mean he can't. Doesn't mean somebody won't come and drop a piano on him if we think it's
Aye.
neat. But let's hope that he's safe for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope that. Yeah, you're right. Because I would
Yeah.
not want that at all. Who would? Let me see. What else? Let me just go back. But yeah, I mean, you also had you. Funny enough, you did this bad
Yeah.
boy, but now you're
Yep.
doing it for DC.
I am doing it for DC, and it is I would say even more daunting than the history of the Marvel Universe is the history of the DC
Really?
Universe. Yeah. Well, frankly, there's a lot more comics to cover because Marvel didn't really publish much in continuity in the 50s. So
True. That's very true.
there's and DC has rebooted its continuity so many times. And so
Hmm.
this is our chance to really once and for all say, okay, you know, until such time as some idiot comes along and reboots it again, fingers crossed
Hmm.
that won't happen anytime soon, we are
Hmm.
going to play by these rules. And so every issue, like the history of the Marvel Universe, every issue has front matter, which is illustrated text, which is Barry Allen
Hmm.
explaining the history of the DC Universe. And then in the back, a text section that goes into much greater detail. It's different from the history of the Marvel Universe. History of the Marvel Universe text section was a little bit more background on what you're seeing in
Like this, yeah.
the yeah. Whereas with the DC one, it is more of a timeline. It is a chance to mention characters that are not mentioned elsewhere. It is a
Hmm.
chance to say in what order these heroes first appeared and in what order these events happened and sort of clarify the timeline of the DC universe once and for all and sort of carve that in stone.
For example, from what I've heard, it's been mentioned that the New 52's first thing with Darkseid is now the official first Justice League meeting. It's not
That
Starro.
is what happens when
Mhm.
when the president of the company is the guy who drew the story. Um, so we thought maybe yeah, but the nice thing is there's ways to meld all that together.
Right, right.
We've done the hard work of figuring out, okay, how does the Jeff Johns Jim Lee Justice League origin also how do you make that tie in with JLA Year One, and how
Hmm.
can you make that tie in with general Justice League history?
Right.
What happened to Cyborg during all that time, which is a mystery that you will find revealed in the
Oh.
pages of history, because everybody wants him to be a founding Titan. You don't want him
Hmm.
to have been a Justice Leaguer all that time and then he's
Right.
slumming by doing, but at the same time, he was in the origin story. So what happened to him during that time is one of
Mhm.
the fun little Easter eggs that we get to play with in history.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. That is definitely on my poll. I cannot wait to get that. But
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of, okay, Supergirl died in Crisis, but now she's back to life. How did that happen? Well,
oh.
read history of this universe. Mysteries like that. What is Hawkman's history, for God's sake? Here it finally is. Here's
Nice.
finally, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice. That is nice. But and how was it working on the history of the Marvel universe? Because I noticed at the very end, this came out in what was the year it came out? It came out in 2019, and there was some stuff I noticed at the towards the end. I'm like, wait, this was planned out that far back? Like, for example, the stuff with Tony and Emma. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a
Yeah.
minute, this was planned in 2019, and that didn't come to fruition until much later.
To be honest, it wasn't so much planned as Tom Brevoort, the editor, and I said, okay, let's throw some bones. I mean, here let's throw some fun Easter eggs out that maybe other writers will pick up on. And sure enough, Jerry Duggan was the
Ah.
first one to do the thing with Emma
Oh, so it
and
was
Scott and Tony. But there will be, I'm sure that other writers will pick up on some of those other elements as the years progress.
more of a chicken egg
It
situation.
was more like a dare. It was more like, okay,
Ah.
let's throw this stuff in and see if, because they wanted readers to get you want there was less of a chance to do it in history of the Marvel universe than there is in the DC universe. But you want the readers who, even those who have been around forever and are intimately familiar with the histories of these universes, you want these books to have surprises for them too.
Right. And I say the whole notion about Franklin being the next Galactus, I am still impressed that it's still considered set in stone. That's like
Yeah,
everywhere. Immortal Hulk has done it. They even added that Mr. Immortal is the backup, and they've kept
yeah.
that. I'm surprised no one has come along and decided, ah, forget it. It still impresses me.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, of course. But by the way, one thing I don't think I talked to you when you were on before was this. I love,
This was fun. This was a
yeah,
lot of fun. Yeah.
yeah. You did the Superman one with Kevin McGuire, and
Yeah,
how was that?
my first chance to work with Kevin.
Oh, really?
Um, and he was just the perfect guy for it because it really leaned into facial expressions, body language,
Hmm.
all the stuff that Kevin is really good at. And I know he had fun doing it. So
Yeah.
I look forward to working with him again at some point. We've known each other for 35 years, but this is our first chance to actually collaborate.
Yep. How was it working on this take of Superman, who's completely like antithesis to normal Superman?
It was fun. I mean, the stuff that Stanley cooked up for these characters, the backstories he cooked up for them, was
Hmm.
just a lot of fun to play with.
Yep. I still find it interesting that Marvel didn't really do that much for Celebrate Stan, but the other competition
Yeah,
put
yeah,
this
yeah,
together to celebrate his 100th birthday, or
yeah.
would have been. I still find that's just so like I've thought that to other people as well. It's just like, what does that say? The
That is
distinguished
odd. Yes.
competition
Yeah.
did more. But yeah, but yeah, back to Just League Unlimited. What is, and without spoiling anything,
Yeah.
what is like the long-term plan? Like how is this is with the absolute, the all in? Like we already know Williamson's doing the Dark Legion, and we
Right.
have absolute DC. Where
Hmm.
does Justice League Unlimited fit into the grand scheme?
It kicked off with the Death of Darkseid and the All-In special. That's sort
Hmm.
of what brought the league together to be this new league together to begin with. And so that will continue to be a running thread that will start to pay out heavily at the end of the first year of Justice League Unlimited, which then leads into the next thing. So
Ah,
in the meantime, you will meet a new group called the Quantum Quorum in issue
ooh,
10. Not much I can say about them right now
right,
without
right,
spoiling
right,
things
right.
away.
Hmm.
Time is still broken, which is
Hmm.
why you can have characters of all ages, not of all, not different ages, but what I'm saying, different
Right, right,
eras
right, right.
show up throughout. And it just makes it even more versatile and fun. It really is truly, once you start having time being broken and people being able to come from the past and future to join the Justice League Unlimited, it truly is unlimited, and that is fun.
Yeah, very much so. And I also got to say, the stuff with Airwave, that's a character that hasn't been used in, I'll be honest,
Forever.
yeah, the last time I actually saw him was when he died during Infinite Crisis again, and that
Yeah.
was a zombie in Blackest Night. He has maybe, no, Grant, I think, used him in the Green Lantern, but other than that, no one ever really touches him.
No, no one does. Jeff Johns brought him back with Todd Knock in that
Hmm.
Stargirl, The Lost Children miniseries.
Right.
Well, brought him back is not exactly accurate because the airwave of the past, the pre-crisis airwave, the airwave of the 1980s was, or
Hmm.
70s and 80s was a cousin of Hal Jordan's, and
Hmm.
he was the son of the Golden Age airwave, but now he's too young to be the son of the Golden Age airwave, and so it's too weird to make him also named Hal Jordan, which
Right.
we have two Hal Jordans running around. So weird, I love that character. I really do. And I
Oh,
always
yeah.
have. And it's always been one of my favorites. So to get to play with him and then sort of use Justice League to sort of explain what his backstory now is has been
Right.
fun.
Yep. And having Grodd manipulate him, that got me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what's going on with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good kid. He just, but he just popped out of time. He hasn't been here in this era for very long. And so, Grodd can make a compelling case to him that perhaps the Justice League is not what you think they are.
Exactly, exactly. And that got me interested. Yeah, right here, this whole bit of just trying to,
Yep.
yeah, make him think, oh, all this power is consolidated. That ain't going to be a good thing.
Right.
You
These
know,
people watching the earth from above like gods. And, Grodd leans into this idea that, he wants Airwave to believe that he's on the wrong side. And
exactly.
all right, don't go much further because you don't want to spoil
Oh,
anything
no,
for
no, no,
someone
no,
who
no.
hasn't read.
You're
Right.
right.
Yep.
You're right. You're right.
Yep.
Oh, someone mentioned, wish Mark would work on something with Jorge Jimenez.
Oh, me
Uh,
too. Me too. Horse amazing. Well,
oh, yeah.
there's, it's possible. I mean, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to
Hmm.
be around for a good long time. So
Yep. Yep.
there's a chance for all of that stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And also you're working on Batman and Robin year one, which is,
Yeah, with
yeah,
Chris Samnee.
yep, how has that been working on that?
It's the best. I mean, Chris is such a terrific storyteller, and
Oh, he is.
it's his dream project. So that's the kind of person you want to be teamed up with, is
Hmm.
someone who loves that stuff. And the fun of it to us, both of us, is that it's Batman and Robin, yes, but it's equally a Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson book. And
Exactly.
in some ways, the Bruce and Dick stuff is more fun to write and draw than the Batman and Robin stuff in some places.
Yep. Back to the history of DC for a sec. One
Yeah.
thing has always been a little bit of a haziness, and if it's not in the book, maybe you could clarify it. Batman, there's so much of the Batman's early years, like
Mhm.
Batman Year Two is like, is that
Right.
still canon or not? Where does all the stuff with Dick? Like, you have Batman Year Three, and yet that seemed to get overridden by Dark Victories, things like
Right.
that. Like,
Which is overwritten by Batman Year Zero, which
yeah,
is, yeah, it's
exactly.
right. We've done our level best to.
Mhm.
There's going to be rough edges where things don't quite fit, but I think we managed with History of the DC Universe to put the pieces together. Um, it's most of Batman's by now what we have established in current continuity is that most of Batman's major villains showed up before Dick Grayson came along.
Right. Yeah, that was
Whereas in
Long
the old
Halloween.
continuity,
Yep.
right? Whereas in the old continuity, it was not the case. But so
Right.
we're just rolling with that. We're
Mhm.
and but Clayface here is Batman's first encounter with Clayface and
Mhm.
Robin's first encounter with Clayface, and we're having fun with that.
Right. I was again curious on that because that has always been a big kerfuffle. I mean, how many Joe Chill? How many times have
Yeah,
we had Joe Chill? Batman confront Joe Chill, and then he either dies, but then comes back again. Like, come on,
right.
guys. How many different Joe Chills
Yeah.
are there? But but yeah, and then yeah, now Dan Moore is coming back onto World's Finest, from what I've heard. Is that long term or is that short term?
Short
Short
term,
term.
because he can only draw so many books a month, man. Even Dan can only draw, but he's doing Superman and Justice League right now, so
Yep. Yep.
he's
Which
a
I say.
busy man. But we're still, we're still talking about other stuff we can do together.
Yep, I gotta say, Dan is like the Mark Bagley of this generation. Because remember when Bart Mark used to just chug out books like crazy,
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
and Dan is like that this generation of that, where he's able to chug out. I still remember he did Power Rangers 100. He was working with you on
yeah.
Shazam. He was working on World's Finest and wrapping up Once and Future. It's like, good God, does this guy sleep?
When he pushes, he can do 3 pages a day, and that's astounding to me. And
Wow.
every other artist in comics that I mentioned that to wants to put a gun to their head because that's just unbelievable speed.
Yeah. Speaking of, I didn't gather them up, but Absolute Power, great
Yeah,
event, great
thank you.
event, and I gotta say the stuff with Dreamer. I
Hmm.
I mean both you and I just forgot the actress's name.
Nicole
Her,
Maines.
yeah, Nicole Maines. She's made her one of my favorite new
Yeah.
characters. I adore her,
That
and
was yeah, that was an interesting event because we went into it thinking that Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman would be the stars of the event. And in fact, the way it worked out was John Kent and Nightwing and Dreamer ended up
yeah,
being the biggest players in the story. As a good example of that old saw that writers say, which is that the characters take over. And that's kind of what
exactly.
happened here. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Shazam. I remember when I had you on, you said, I'll be on till I run out of ideas. Not long after I had you on, you were off the book, which I'm like,
I know.
oh,
It was really, there were two things going on. First off, that I was just running out of time to do
mhm,
all these things. And secondly, Dan had to leave that book. And it was fun doing it a few issues beyond that with Dan, but,
mhm,
and Emily Pacino came on and she did an amazing job. But
mhm.
I I really liked working with Dan. And
Yep.
so it just gave us a chance to, if I hadn't left Shazam, I probably wouldn't have had time to do Justice League Unlimited. So, the choice was we'll follow Dan.
Exactly. Exactly. And I say Josie Campbell, her taking over. She did great in your
Yeah, I think
first
so. I
stuff.
totally
Yep.
agree. Yeah.
I've met her, and she adored, being able to. The way she put it was, she wanted to keep on rebuilding more of the pre-crisis stuff that's been taken for granted. And I'm like, thank you so much. I mean, she's the one who made sure Mary's not going to lose her powers again if Billy's powers go wonky, which I'm like,
Right.
thank you. That's always
Right.
bugged me. Mary always had to suffer so they could shake up the status quo. And it's like, that's not fair to her.
Right. And legal fixed it so we can say Mary Marvel again, which is
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
great. That's
Oh,
her name
really?
again. So yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
If you look,
there was an
it's in, yeah, it's in Josie's story. She's Mary Marvel.
right, right. I didn't know that was a legal issue. I had
Yeah, it's
no
a legal
clue.
issue because of Marvel, because we can't,
Oh,
we can,
right.
we can,
Marvel. I
yeah,
get it.
right. Yeah.
Captain Marvel's a whole different kettle
A
of fish.
whole
But
different character. Exactly.
Mary
Right.
Marvel, I mean, yeah, of course. But
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, there's so much stuff you're working, so much stuff you have coming up. I mean, is there anything you want to tease that you can tease?
Wow. I mean, there is, I mean, the Superboy series is a blast to work with
Mm-hmm.
Skylar Patridge on that,
Mm-hmm.
and watching Superboy build his identity from the ground up.
Ooh.
I mean, that's really what that series is about. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they had the Kents had no plans of him being Superboy this early. They figured
Right.
it'd be a little while, and then as fate happens, he has to step up, and
Mm-hmm.
now they've got to figure out the whole identity. They haven't figured out how
Huh.
to make the costume. They haven't figured out secret identity stuff. They haven't figured out
Mm-hmm.
half his powers. I mean, so
Right.
it's really a how does Clark get to be a hero, and how does Clark get to be Superman? That's really the
Superboy year
running
one,
theme of
in
this.
other words. Superboy year
Well, yeah,
one.
sort of that sort of thing. So there's that. There's other stuff that I'm playing around with that I just don't. It's too early to announce, but
Right, right, right,
I'm super busy. Trust me, busy, busy,
right.
busy.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
So a bit off topic, but with the upcoming Superman movie, are you
yeah.
excited for that?
Oh, sure, of course, of course. I
Yep.
just, I sat with Peter Safran and hit the co-producer and gassed about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I told when the trailer came out, I told James Gunn that it really was hitting me right in the feels, and he
Yeah.
was glad to hear that. It was the fact that they found a way to use the music without it
Mm-hmm.
just being a retread of John Williams, but there's still the
Mm-hmm.
music there is great because if you're doing Superman without that
Mm-hmm.
music, it's like doing James Bond without the James Bond theme, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I can't wait for the trailer tomorrow. I cannot
I
wait for
know.
that.
I
I'm
know.
just like, what are they going to show? What
I
aren't they
know.
going to show? Oh, one last question before we start to wind down. But
Sure.
loved Absolute Power. Will Earth
Yeah.
Zero ever get reconnected to the rest of the multiverse? I'm presuming that deals with the absolute stuff, right?
Right. That deals with the absolute stuff, and I can't really go into that, but I will say that the severing the multiverse still exists. It's just that right
Right.
now our current DC world is cut off from it. And unfortunately, that has created some problems that have started to percolate
Mhm.
that they weren't taking into account. So
Ooh.
when the multiverse does come back big,
Mhm.
it will not come back without some growing pains.
Oh, because I gotta say, yeah, I just love that. Because I remember Dark Crisis is like you repopulate the multiverse, and then they get cut off. I'm like, well, thank God they didn't destroy it again. That would have
Yeah,
been
yeah, exactly.
pointless.
Yeah.
Because don't you hate when they do it? They do something in one event, and then the immediate next event, undone. It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah. We're
yep.
very good about that these days. I mean, editorial regime at DC is sort of like working together in a way I've not
Mm-hmm.
seen the editors work together in such a long time, and everybody's working to again. We're doing that
Oh
stupid
yeah.
StreamYard, stupid
It's all
zoom
right.
out thing.
It's all right. It's all
Um,
right.
Everybody's working to make sure that we're consistent and that we are all pulling in the same direction and nobody's dropping pianos on what the other person's doing, and I think we've got a good shot at keeping the DC universe pretty orderly for some time to come.
Yeah, I can't wait because I mean, yeah, you have all the stuff. You have John doing his stuff with Secret Six. You have Trinity over in Wonder Woman. Boy, I wonder when someone's gonna write her. Things like
Yeah,
that. Like,
yeah.
oh, here's another other question. At this point in your career, do you have a dream project
Wow.
still?
Wow. I mean, Superboy was the last one on the bucket list. I mean, it was World's
Ah,
Finest and Superboy, and I must, but I
gotta come
don't,
up with a new bucket list.
I got to come up with a new bucket list. I mean, I hate to say no, but I mean, I
Not
may
right now.
not.
That's better
Not
say.
right now.
Not right now.
Something may come to mind, but right now I think I've I've checked all the boxes that I wanted to check when I was a kid.
Exactly. And yeah, just I want to get there one day. I hope I do. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but yeah, Mark, it was great having you on. I breezed through everything a lot faster than I thought I was
Yeah.
going to. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank everyone else. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.